Chimera is one of those decks that is going to get even better with more support coming into Master Duel, and in this video in the Fusion X Link Festival you're going to see just how powerful this deck is. Going second, the opponent here is on Branded, one of the stronger decks for this event, and this is a diamond player, so not necessarily a noob or anything like that, and they're going to set up a pretty interesting end board here, getting all of their key combo pieces in rotation. They've got their Fusion spell in the Branded Theater, they've got Despian Tragedy, they've got the Cartasia, they've got the Quem to hand, and they've got the Grand Yugioh set up to bring out most likely a Cryotis from the extra deck, and then off the Albion send they're going to be able to set a Branded in red and get the Branded in High Spirits and Cartasia back to hand. So this is a pretty interesting board. They do have the Branded Lost setup as well, which means that I can't respond to their fusion summons, and they will be able to search a card that is or has mention of Fallen of Albaz. So we didn't have any disruption, unfortunately. One Ash Blossom or one Imperm would have actually done some pretty good work against this opponent, but we know that all three of the cards in their hand: Quem, Cartasia, and Branded in High Spirits, and then they have a one random draw off of the Shrouded Dragon there. So I'm pretty confident that there's no interruption on the opponent's end in terms of negates like Ash or Imperms. So we're going to just go ahead and activate Fright for Patchwork though to check the Ash. There is no response there. Then we're going to activate Codal to grab the Mirror Sword Knight. Normal summon Mirror Sword Knight triggered the ability to summon Big Wing, which will trigger the Grand Yugioh to summon most likely a Cryotis from the deck. And sure enough, the opponent does indeed opt to summon that. And then the Big Wing will search for a Chimera Fusion and a Gazelle, so that's important to get the Chimera Fusion to hand. This is obviously a key engine piece that we need in rotation. From there, I'm going to go ahead and activate the Fusion Armament just to get a body called Chimera, the Flying Mythical Beast, on the field, in case the opponent had a monster effect that I would need to negate with the Mirror Sword Knight, or negate and destroy with the Cornfield Codal. So I activate Polymerization here with these two bodies on field just in case the opponent does exactly this and activate their Branded in red, getting their Despian Tragedy back to hand and going into a Guardian Chimera. I have the ability to pop 2 with my Guardian Chimera as well if I use both of these materials on field as fusion. That does mean that I won't have a card called Chimera the Flying Mythical Beast on field anymore, which means my 2 graveyard negates are offline. However, I am going to be able to resolve my effects first since I am the turn player, but the opponent does get 3 effects themselves. So they search for an Allure, which is follow-up, they draw 2 and pop my Guardian Chimera. So again, this is what I had to play through. This is what the opponent set up. We're going to be able to draw 1 and pop 2 here. We popped their Guardian Chimera and their Branded Lost. So, you know, their Lost put in work. It got them 2 searches, and you can see how many cards they have in hand, but we've got a lot as well. So it's not necessarily too far away from us to come back in this game. We're going to go ahead and activate Chimera Fusion now and go into the Chimera King of Mythical Beasts, or King of Phantom Beasts, which becomes King of Mythical Beasts when it's on the field. So we're going to go ahead and Chain Link block the Chimera for no reason, and we're going to get Ash negated on the Gazelle search, and that's totally fine actually. Like, that doesn't really matter. We don't necessarily need that search. It could have helped, but I guess it's neither here nor there at the end of the day, because we have all of our pieces in rotation already. So I attempt to go battle phase. The opponent opts to activate the Cryotis here, and I was thinking if it was worth continuing to push, but I'm like, no, these resources are probably more important for follow-up. Unfortunately, my discard off of the Chimera is the Branded in High Spirits, which they just get back to hand for free, so that was completely useless. So, you know, going second, having to play through all those interruptions, it's just really, it feels bad, and then, you know, the discard doesn't even get something good. So the opponent is working with 7 cards in hand. They still have their Cryotis and their Theater of the Branded on the field. They're going to go ahead and activate Shrouded Dragon, dumping a Fallen of Albaz in order to put back and draw 1. Then they're going to activate Fusion Deployment, revealing a Lubellion to bring out a Fallen of Albaz, likely to try and fuse with my Chimera to go into Mirror Jade. So off of the discard here, I'm going to absolutely trigger the Mirror Sword Knight. This is why I use it in the draw phase to bring out the Gazelle, because I'm like, if this is on the field, I don't want to banish it from the field. I might as well use the effect to bring out a Gazelle first, which is what I do there. So we're going to go ahead and banish the Mirror Knight to negate the Albaz, and the reason I do this over the Imperm obviously is because if I lose this Chimera off the field, I have the imperm for follow-up, whereas I wouldn't have the Mirror Sword Knight. They follow up with the Quem, dumping a Blazing Cartasia after they banished their first one here, so they are playing multiples. Then they Goalsark for yet another Despian Tragedy, grabbing yet another Aluber. So they've got 2 Alubers in hand, I believe. They're going to go infuse with one of them now to go into Lubellion along with that Albaz. And then off the discard off the Lubellion, they're going to also trigger the Guiding Quem. So I'm going to have to negate the Lubellion because the Mirror Jade is definitely more threatening than what the Quem is going to bring back to field. And the Quem is going to target a Blazing Cartasia, which is live to fuse. So the opponent then sets a card, most likely an Imperm, and opts to fuse off into a Despian Proskinian, which is quite threatening here. They're going to be able to grab back my Chimera, and they have pretty much lethal on board, I guess. Now, if this is an Imperm, thankfully, it's not going to negate my Chimera fusion since, they just set that Imperm. But off of my fusion summon, off of the Baphomet, the king of the mythical, whatever it's called, I'm going to be able to dump a Nightmare Magician, and then because I fused away the Big Winged, I'm going to be able to bring back out a Kotal, which can't be destroyed by battle. So I'm going to be able to survive this turn despite the opponent wiping out both the Baphomet, the mythical king of Phantom Beasts, and whatever other monster I had on field there. I don't even remember. The Gazelle, I think it was. So the Kotal stays. But the reason I did this setup is because now during the end phase of my opponent's turn, I can trigger Chimera in order to bring back a card in the graveyard, which is most likely going to be Nightmare Magician. So this is an illusion monster, and Nightmare Magician is an illusion monster as well. And then I can banish the card I just fused into, which is, again, the Baphomet, the mythical king of Phantom Beasts, in order to banish that and bring back the Chimera, the king of Phantom Beasts, that I banished to bring out the Nightmare Magician. So yeah, you're going to see here, banish the first fusion, grab back Nightmare Magician, which I called the king for some reason. So that hits the field, and then activate the Baphomet in order to bring back the Chimera. And this setup right here is lethal damage if I can go into this card here, Chimera, the Illusion Beast, because with 2 illusion monsters, which I have on field in the Kotal and the Nightmare Magician, plus the Chimera, which is also on field that I brought back, I can attack 3 times, which will represent lethal damage if I can attack, let's say, this Blazing Cartasia. So the opponent's going to get back there branded in high spirits there. And I do have to be aware of them using the Cartasia Diffused of the Despian Coritis to lower the whole field's attack, but the fusion monster that I want to summon, I keep forgetting the name, the Chimera, the Illusion Beast, is not affected by Coritis because it is a level 8 or higher fusion monster. But the Proskinian could also bring back a card. Right now it can't because I don't have a fusion in the graveyard. Oh, I do. Okay, I have this, but it wasn't summoned properly, so I don't think they can bring it back. So they'd have to wait till I fuse off this Chimera in order to use Proskinian. But there's no real interruptions unless this is an Imperm. So I'm going to start off with the Frightful Patchwork, grabbing an Edgem Chain. And what's really important here is I drew Forbidden Droplet for turn, and this card works really, really well in Chimera because you can see how much advantage I constantly generate with this deck. And right now in Master Duel, I think this is a really good option to play in the deck. So we're going to normal summon Gazelle. The opponent opts to use their Imperm here, and I'm like, that's perfect. Activate Droplet, send a Chimera Fusion and a Poly, and this Gazelle, because I don't need the Poly. I only need 1 Chimera Fusion to win the game here. And we're going to triple negate, and the opponent can't respond because I sent a monster. Triple negate for the Coritis, for the Proskinian, and for the Blazing Cartasia. So none of these effects are now going to be able to be activated in the main phase, or at all really for the rest of the turn. We grab the other Chimera Fusion. Now we're going to activate the Chimera Fusion, use the whole field in order to go into Chimera, the Illusion Beast. And this thing will be able to attack 3 times. After the first attack, the opponent's monster will be reduced to 0. This card or the card of battles cannot be destroyed by battle as per the illusion effects. The opponent attempts to activate all 3 effects and fails. Now we just go battle phase, deal 2350 to that Blazing Cartasia, then attack 2 more times for 3100 damage each, representing lethal damage, and taking that game, going second with Chimera against Branded.